Good evening. It is my honor once again to welcome you to the debate series on corruption. This series examines a selection of 7 very important national issues, mainly issues arising out of initiatives of the government of Guyana, and also issues which have generated quite a bit of controversy, and this controversy is related to charges of corruption. We intend to highlight these issues over a series of 7 public debates with the hope that they will be analyzed and the public duly informed. This is the 5th in the series, and in this discussion we focus public procurement and claims of corruption. Our intention is to engage and debate every issue regarding this topic, and with the aim of separating facts from the propaganda which surrounds it. My name is Al Crichton, and as usual we have with us in this debate a very worthy panel, and our panelists this evening are the Honorable Dr. Ashni Singh, Minister of Finance, the Honorable Dr. Leslie Ramsammy, Minister of Agriculture, Mr. David Patterson, General Secretary of Alliance for Change, Mr. Donald Clou, who is the Chairman of the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board, and Mr. Clou is our specialist on tonight's panel. We were expecting a representative of the private sector, but we received word that that person will not be coming, and as we have been already advised, we are not going to have a representative from a partnership for national unity. Now, as we begin the discussion on this topic of public procurement and charges of corruption, we want to begin with opening statements. And what we will do at first is to ask our expert on the subject, Mr. Donald Clou, to tell us very clearly and precisely what we mean when we talk about public procurement. Mr. Clou.
When we speak about public procurement, we refer to the procurement of goods, services, and works at the lowest possible cost, and which should be delivered in the quickest possible time and with the best quality. That's it in a nutshell. In other words, you must receive value for money under the public procurement system. In fact, the main objective of public procurement is to receive value for money. And this objective cannot be achieved under a system plagued by corruption. It can only be achieved where contracts are awarded on a competitive basis and where the procurement system sets clear guidelines regarding transparency, efficiency, economy, and fairness. In our case, the Procurement Act covers all of these guidelines, and it is my hope that during the course of this debate that I'll be able to highlight those measures and their application.
All right, now, and then if we assume that someone is not very acquainted with what public procurement is, and we were trying to explain exactly what we are dealing with, the award of contracts, we're dealing with tenders, we're dealing with what? Could you give us a very precise sentence on that? I mean, public procurement is all about when the government has work to be done and they would like to...
Okay, just that, okay. It is the acquisition of goods, public works and consulting services by procuring entities in a timely manner that results in the best value to whom public funds have been entrusted and allocated at the lowest evaluated price without sacrificing quality and timely delivery.
Yeah, all right, thank you very much. And now we are going to ask the Honorable Minister of Finance, Dr. Ashni Singh, to make an opening statement on behalf of the government.
Well, thank you very much, Al, and let me again thank NCN for inviting me to participate in this series of programs. This is my second such program, and I commend the station for bringing into the living rooms of the Guyanese citizenry this discussion series. I thank my colleagues around the table, and in particular Mr. Patterson from the AFC for coming here, and I express regret that the other invitees are not here. I will say that on the matter of public procurement, we have made tremendous progress in Guyana in putting in place a system that serves those high objectives that Donnelly Clou just spoke of. If one were to look over, say, a 20-year horizon, we have moved from a pre-1992 situation where there was no public and competitive tendering, no public advertisements, no public opening of tenders, etc. In fact, no legislative framework to govern public procurement. Indeed, in those days, you didn't have a Public Procurement Act at all. What you had was a very skeletal administrative circular issued by the Ministry of Finance, the Secretary to the Treasury at the time, a very, very bare bones and skeletal circular that addressed a very rudimentary system. And that's what we inherited when this government came into office in 1992. We moved immediately to introduce open competitive tendering. By this I mean public advertisement for the purchase of goods, services and works, open, transparent opening of these tenders, professional evaluation of these tenders against established criteria documented in a bid document that is publicly available, award of a contract to a successful bidder coming out of this evaluation process, and public notification of that award. We put in place a legislative framework, having identified the objectives of fairness and competition and the high ideal of value for money, as Nanda said. We put in place a legislative framework that would lend itself to the achievement of these objectives in the form of the Public Procurement Act 2003 and associated regulations. We established a National Procurement and Tenders Administration and Board, a bureaucratic administration and a board chaired, of course, by Mr. Clou, which has since proceeded to implement the new Public Procurement Act, and I believe has proceeded to do so.
Okay, you may wrap up now, Mr.
And I believe has done so with considerable success. What we now have is a system that is geared to serve the objectives of transparency and accountability and openness, and I believe does so very well.
All right, thank you very much. And now we invite Mr. David Patterson, General Secretary of the AFC, to make his opening statement.
Thank you, Al. I'm pleased to be here. It's better odds than my colleagues. Normally it's 3.5 against 1, it's 3 against 1, so I'm much more comfortable. This will be a strange debate because I will be the only person on this panel who will be publicly stating that there is corruption in our public procurement system. I will only mean the government side will, and I already heard Mr. Clou's opening remarks. They will not concede that there is corrupt practices in the way in which we handle our procurement policies. And when I say corruption, corrupt practices, I'm not only talking about the bribes and the kickbacks that have been solicited by contractors and suppliers. I'm talking about the misuse of your office, the unethical manner in which you abuse the powers of your office. to further your gains. I mean, and one of the things that we already know, we can already say how the government views the abuse of power or in government's officials, because no less than 3 nights ago, right at this forum, one of the senior ministers made a statement that he saw nothing wrong with the president, and I assume when he meant the president, he meant all other senior government officials doing things to ensure that how he has a better life when he leaves office, rather than the ethical things of following due process. So during the course of this debate, I will be highlighting from what we, and I think the man in the street, would consider to be corrupt practices in public procurement. I'd like to ask the viewers to listen and watch the response from the government, because obviously the default response, in our opinion, will be bring us the proof. That's the ostrich sticking its head in the sand. And that will be the default to every query that we raise, everything that we do, we bring the proof, and they will probably carry you back, as the minister already did, to those dark days of beyond 1992. One of the things I would like to let the public know why corruption damages us as a nation. There's the Transparency International. It's an organization that rates countries based on the corruption perception. And Guyana is ranked 134th out of 178 countries. I mean, in this Western Hemisphere, the only 2 countries that are below us are Haiti and Venezuela. So the only people internationally, they deem us as a corrupt country. The man in the street, the general public, knows how there's widespread corruption in this country. Okay. The only persons that will never admit that there's widespread corruption in this country would be the government side. So I use this debate to further my point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patterson. Now we invite the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Leslie Ramsammy, to make his opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you, our colleagues and sisters and brothers out there. We're discussing a very important issue, one of many that have generated much interest in our country. And I want to assure my colleague, Mr. Patterson, that this government is not like an ostrich or put our head in the sand or hide under the rug. This government has put in all kinds of laws, procedures, regulations, etc. We are open to discussing these things in our parliament. We have an Auditor General that examines these things. We go into the communities, we engage in public debates. And we have acknowledged, no less than the President has acknowledged, that the system, in spite of all the checks and balances, do sometimes lapse. We do understand that during the execution of contracts and so, things sometimes don't flow as perfect as it is. But I will challenge Mr. Patterson, and I will challenge the opposition to name me a country which, in executing and implementing their laws and programs for accountability and transparency, don't see lapses in the system. And we have actually taken action to ensure that we reduce. We hope that not only will we reduce, but we will eliminate any corruption that might be linked, not only in the process, but in terms of actually executing our programs. And we have strengthened by the days, months, years, the system to address these issues. But I would hope Mr. Patterson and others don't come here and just talk in general terms, because I hope we will be honest, because we can't talk about just merely speculations and suspicion. We must talk about specific cases, because I'm not going to come here and address my sisters and brothers with people making allegations. And by the way, the minister in the previous discussion never said that the president or anybody have the right to go and make themselves better. What he said was that all of us, the president and all of us, have a right to make our lives better in accordance with the laws
Never
of
said
our
that, sir.
country.
Never
Yes,
said
he
that.
did. I listened to it. And so we must be honest. The people
Listen,
out there.
can I just quote something,
Yeah.
actually? And I quote. This is the minister, and I'm quoting. What is wrong with a former president or a president seeking to ensure he lives a comfortable life after the presidency, especially because we have term limits, knowing fully well that you're going to demit office? You must ensure that you look to the future. We must not go from
So tell me
president
what's
to
wrong.
the right.
No,
to the
tell me
right.
what's wrong with any citizen guaranteeing that their
When you
lives
use
get
your
better.
office, when you use
But
your
he didn't
office.
say that.
No,
All right,
no,
he
no.
said that
When you-
in accordance with the law, and you can't.
Where is the
stretch-
accordance with the law?
No, but you can't stretch it, and I will not allow you.
Anybody-
I will not allow you.
We have to,
Mr. Prime,
we are
I
now
will.
at the point
Anybody who
of,
looked at that program. would
But
have
I
seen
did.
And everybody
Mr.
got
Prime,
that. Everybody
I
got
will
that.
take objection to Mr. Patterson
Yes,
saying
Mr.
that we
we are
in
now at the
government,
point of
because I
opening
want to
remarks.
repeat
We are
this,
now at
the
the point of
government's
opening
position
remarks.
is that every citizen, you, me,
We are
all of
going
us,
to
have a
go to
right
break
to
at
improve
this
our
point.
lives as long as we do so in accordance with the law.
Okay, Mr. Let us just get this clear. We are just at the point now of opening remarks. People will make statements in these opening remarks which any of you might want to rebut. You have your opportunity as soon as we return and we get
Accepting
into the
Mr.
debate.
Brighton that Mr.
So
Patterson
we
chose
are
to
now-
intervene in my presentation.
Yes, well, you
And
had
so
a
I
plan.
didn't finish,
Yeah.
but we move
Mr.
on.
Fine.
Patterson doesn't enjoy
We
the
now
exclusive right to
we now
interrupt.
go to a break.
At 3-1, I would hope I'd have a little more.
We now
It's not 3-2.
go. We now
Okay,
go
2.5.
to a break.
It's not 2-1.
Okay, now, Mr. We are going to just to allow you to respond to the point that Mr. Patterson had made. You are wrapping up your statement, so let's hear it.
The government of Guyana fully embraces the principles of accountability, and our systems are designed to do so. We acknowledge that there is no perfect system in the world, and we therefore subscribe to the queries and questioning, and that is why Mr. Clou explained that we have a procurement system that, in fact, we have open tendering. More than 80% of the procurement in this country is led through public open tendering. We have sometimes some restricted tendering where we have pre-qualified suppliers. We have very little in terms of direct procurement. This is a shopping, just going to one person and buy, or hiring a consultant or a contractor.
Okay, now having heard all the opening statements, we are now going to go into actually debating the issues that have been raised by the speakers in their opening remarks. And the charges, for example, of corruption that are being brought, that are alleged to surround the public procurement, have to do with corrupt practices, have to do with the use of office, the abuse of power, bribes, kickbacks, and so on. These are some of the charges we heard from Mr. Patterson, and we are going to allow responses to those charges.
Well, let me say, Al, first of all, that it is not good enough for political statements to be made by innuendo. And it is simply not good enough for Mr. Patterson to come here and deliberately and blatantly misrepresent what a minister said. Any viewer of this program who looked at Nanda Gopaul speaking on that debate, would have seen clearly what he meant, and would have been able, within the context of what was being said, would have been able to interpret what he meant. I'm glad that Mr. Patterson deliberately came and distorted what Nanda Gopaul says, because it illustrates the modus operandi of the Alliance for Change. Distortion and misrepresentation. This is not a novelty. in the same manner that the whole nation looked at Nanda Gopaul's statement and saw clearly what he meant. And now the AFC can come and misrepresent that statement. It is exactly in that manner that the Alliance for Change and other elements in the political opposition have made it a habit of beating a corruption drum on the basis of misrepresented facts. So I'm glad that he made the point about Nanda Gopaul, because it discloses the nature of the political creature that we're dealing with in the Alliance for Change and in the political opposition. I will say this.
Can I respond?
Yes, you will.
I will say this, that it is not good enough to make a generalized statement that there is corruption. There is a reason why we have made the system so open. I am pleased, and I will always insist that we preserve an arrangement where all and sundry can come and witness the opening of bids. This is not a secret event. Every tenderer, indeed every member of the public, indeed the media, I have myself said to the media, you know when the tenders are being opened because it says so at the bottom of the advertisement. Come, witness it, make note of what the bids that are open and report them to the nation. We must be one of the very few countries in the world, probably the only one in the Caribbean, where the opening of public tenders is a newsworthy item, is a matter that is placed in the public domain in the news. I can't think of any other example. And I would defend that stoutly, because we want the system to be scrutinized. We want the system to be open. We then make public the results of the procurement process, again for a reason. Because we want the nation to know, these are the this is the project that was tendered, these are the persons who bid, these are the prices that were tendered, and this is the person who eventually got the award. It is this administration that has insisted that we have in place a system that ensures that level of openness. That is openness.
Okay.
There may be instances where the rules, for one reason or another, may not have been complied with, and where that is the case, first of all, we have those rules and we have systems to identify that. We have an Auditor General, for example, that is reported publicly, and those instances need to be fixed. And we have no difficulty with saying that where there is violation of the rules, it should not happen and should not be condoned and should be fixed.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Now, Mr. Patterson, I had promised to give you an opportunity to respond to the Minister's remarks there. But I must remind everyone that the subject we are debating tonight is corruption as it pertains to public procurement. So that it might be helpful if we basically stick to that topic, that we're talking about corruption and public procurement, or public procurement and charges of corruption. You may respond.
Thank you very much. And no, I mean, I stand by what I said, as well as the interpretation. Of course, the minister is free to spin it however he wants. And I just wanted to respond quickly to the Honourable Minister Ramsammy. You haven't been in the world's eye. We haven't been getting better anyway. We've actually fallen in corruption perception index. We were 116th. We're now 134th. I mean, next year we probably drop another 10 places. So therefore, I mean, whatever systems that they're championing here, they're not working. However, what I want to address is this. There's supposed to be a public procurement commission established under the 2003 Procurement Act. This is almost 10 years now, and this government has steadfastly refused to put this public procurement commission. And I say this here, you know, I mean, I was a member of the Public Accounts Commission, and I brought my minutes here with me, and this item was a standing item for 5 years. And on each occasion, the PPP representative, when asked, have you brought your names to the Public Accounts Commission, that's the commission which debates and the thing, have you brought your names of nominees? The representative, Mr. Kumal Chan, would get up, and I brought it here just in cause, would get up and publicly state for the record, and these are records from the Parliament, the ones that weren't washed away with water, and I can quote. This is from 2008. Mr. Chan reported that he reminded the body, which is the PPP, which was responsible for providing the names of nominees, but was advised that body was addressing it. I can go to 2009 once again. In response to the query, which is the appoint the nominees, Mr. Chan informed members that he's in no position to indicate the names of the government nominees to be appointed to the above commission. So, since 2003, this government, when they had a majority, and worse so now, they have refused to put the Public Procurement Commission in place. And this is our contention, right? That public procurement is the oversight body, whereby persons can appeal, they can review the powers of debarment, all those transfers to the public procurement. So there is a reason, and the reason is that a Public Procurement Commission would stifle that corrupt lifeblood which they need for their survival.
All right, thank you.
I didn't want to intervene because this is Ms. Patterson has been presenting a story in a totally unfair and a dishonest way. And by the way, it's
what
not
is dishonest.
Listen, man, I gave you a chance to talk. Let me talk to my brothers and sisters now, because in fact the Procurement Commission Act included the Procurement Commission because this government
So I
placed it. Let me finish, man. Let's be courteous. So this government placed it in the constitution of this country as we try to evolve a more accountable state. And the president then said, you bring me the nomination today, and within hours I will appoint and swear in the committee. This president, on being appointed, being elected as the president, said, I am willing to do so now. Y'all talk about, comrades, sisters and brothers, we talk about shared governance. It is this government that placed shared governance as a priority in this country. We asked the Parliament of Guyana to nominate the members of the Procurement Commission. To this day, that body has failed to do so. The Public Accounts Committee have failed to do so. And it's not just that the PPP didn't come up with names. There have been a process where at the highest level of interaction between the president, the leader of the opposition, and the leader of your party in the previous parliament and now in this parliament have decided that they will deal with it at that plenary. And we don't have to go that far. We had a dialogue and a conversation between the president and the opposition parties. Mr. Granger is involved. Your leader was involved. I am part of a committee that decided to put this on the table. And this is still to be determined. The president is waiting for the names because the president cannot appoint the commission in his own deliberate judgment. We need 2/3 majority in the parliament to approve those names.
Okay.
And that is
and can I mean, obviously he was responding to me. Can I please?
Okay,
Thank you very much.
We come to
Right, fair enough. I mean, after all the ministers said there, he hasn't said why they haven't appointed it now, because obviously during 2006, I can tell you, during 2006 to 2011, the now president was the general secretary of the PPP. They submitted no names. There was no high-level bipartisan tripartite discussion between 2006 to 2011. Then, under the new dispensation, the names supposed to have gone up to the tripartite. Everyone submitted a name, but nothing has happened so far. They've gotten up publicly. I mean, every single occasion, like the minister doing now, they've gotten up publicly said that we will do it, but they haven't done it, and there's nothing. And their excuse has always been something the opposition hasn't done. If you are if you believe in transparency,
listen, you have the majority now, and you're chairman of the Public Accounts Committee.
But if you don't
put it forward,
it
you
has
have
been.
To put it. The president can't do nothing unless you bring it forward.
So it is the opposition that's not that. Is it the opposition that's not starting the Public Accounts Committee?
The minister will tell you that forever, The
Okay.
chairman of the Public Accounts Committee is from the opposition. And right now, they also have majority on that committee.
Okay, Dr.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, first of
Yeah.
all, I want to say this. The opposition has repeatedly cited the non-appointment of the Public Procurement Commission as the principal justification for their conclusion, indeed oftentimes the sole justification for their conclusion, that the public procurement system is not working. Let me say this. There are public procurement systems, national public procurement systems all over the world, where you don't have a constitutional public procurement commission, and those systems are working well. We have put in place a system that is not dependent on the existence of a public procurement commission to achieve the objectives of openness and transparency. The system that we have is already open and transparent, and the Public Procurement Commission merely has an oversight role as articulated in the Constitution. But its non-appointment, notwithstanding that that is a desirable thing, and I'm going to come back to that, its non-appointment does not automatically lead to the conclusion, as the opposition would like to have us believe, that somehow or the other, because the commission is not there, the public procurement system is dysfunctional. First of all, that is not the case. Secondly, I want to reiterate the point that Minister Ramsammy made. The Public Procurement Commission is a creature of the Constitution. The article that established that commission requires a 75% majority of the Parliament. It is this administration that introduced in the 2001 Constitution the requirement that a Public Procurement Commission be established. And so if we did not intend to have a Public Procurement Commission, that clause, that article would not have been in the Constitution. It is there because we wanted it there. And we wanted it there, and we ensured that it got there in 2001 when the constitutional amendments were enacted. Thirdly, what Mr. Patterson is not saying is that the process involves the Public Accounts Committee taking names to the Parliament, and the Parliament then endorsing those names. The Public Accounts Committee, by standing order, is chaired by the opposition, a front bench member of the opposition, oftentimes the shadow finance minister. The Public Accounts Committee has patently failed in arriving at a Public Accounts Committee, I repeat, chaired by a front bench member of the opposition, has patently failed in its obligation, in its duty to bring names to the National Assembly. Instead, what has happened is the opposition has introduced all sorts of designs to frustrate this matter. Introducing requirements. I remember there was a debate about what should be the qualifications of the members.
The numbers.
Introducing complications about the numbers, the formula for allocating who should get how many nominees, all with the intent of frustrating what should have been an extremely simple process. That history, Mr. Patterson is not sharing with this country.
Okay.
The reality is that the opposition introduced those elements with the deliberate design of slowing and stymieing this process.
Okay, thank
and
you
the
very much.
PSC has failed in its duty to bring this matter to the National Assembly.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Clou.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Although the Public Procurement Commission has not yet been established, there is provision, as Minister Singh said, under the Act, under Section 17.2 of the Act, for the National Board to take responsibility for most of the work of the Public Procurement Commission. And that involves making regulations governing the procurement of goods and services, determining the forms of documents of procurement, reporting to the Minister on the effectiveness of the procurement system, policy assistance, capacity building, monitoring functions, and these functions cover issuance and dissemination of the Act, regulations, directive, capacity building, utilizing, delivering training programs, creation of a management information system, establishing a website, introducing electronic procurement. And in exercising these duties, the National Board has taken the following steps. The four sets of regulations that came into force that involved a consultant from the World Bank. It followed consultations with the National Board. The board has also reviewed, as required under the Act and regulations, and they have identified areas for detailed reviews. And these detailed reviews have been undertaken by consultants. And they cover debarment. We have since received a draft regulation concerning debarment, because although debarment is stated in the Act as a method of punishing persons who are culpable for certain acts, there isn't a formal mechanism to deal with debarment. For example, it doesn't deal with the body that should undertake it, how the debarment should be addressed, whether the person who is being debarred should be represented by an attorney and so on. So we have in place, as a result of the action of the national board, and this is a duty or a function which would have, under normal circumstances, would have been undertaken by the Public Procurement Commission. We have sought the assistance of a consultant, and we now have a draft concerning debarment, a draft regulation concerning increases in the threshold that Mr. Patterson and the board have been, on the Public Accounts Committee, they have been clamoring for. And we have also introduced revised standard bidding documents, which will be in use from this month mandatorily. Because, and going on to standard bidding documents, it is a requirement under the Act in order to encourage fairness for us to use standard bidding documents, standard evaluation criteria, and so on. So it's not, I don't think it's entirely, well, the merit of the Public Procurement Commission, as Minister Singh was, said earlier, it is not necessary. Although I personally feel that, okay, we've made
Right, if you could,
Ms. Moderator, can I just ask a question of our expert?
Yes, you may
a
go
question.
ahead.
Mr. Clou, I mean, I heard everything you're saying there. Is it not correct that should the Public Procurement Commission come into force, 70% of the powers which you now have for the duties and responsibilities will be removed from you? So therefore you just be restricted to executing the law says, Section 17(1), that says that when the Public Procurement Commission comes into force, all you do is send out a tender. You can read it, I have it here, as well as appoint evaluations. All the questions you're talking about, debarring, and you go in and get a contract, a consultant, and so forth, and all those things like that. Those are all things you advocated of yourself without the Public Procurement Commission in place. Is that not the law?
No,
you got it wrong.
It's a requirement. It's a requirement under the
But
Act.
it would be under the Public Procurement Commission, would it not?
That is
Should
not-
that?
No, but in the
That's
absence
absolutely
of-
right.
But in the absence of a public committee, you now have that
That is not the
authority.
case.
No.
Is that
Principal functions of the National Procurement and Tenders Board remain intact whether there is a commission or not. The Tender Board, for example, is an awards board. That's in fact, that's probably the principal function, the making of tender awards and the administration of the public procurement system. That will always reside with the National Procurement and Tenders Board under the Procurement Act. The Public Procurement Commission has very specific oversight functions.
Precisely.
And those functions are listed in the constitutional article, I think it's Article 212, if I'm not mistaken, 212W, I believe. Those are, the functions are very specific. The exercise of oversight.
Can I share the
The section that you are referring to simply says that in the absence of the establishment of the Public Procurement Commission,
correct,
that certain functions of the Public Procurement Commission shall be discharged by the National Procurement
and
Tender Board.
should the Public Procurement Commission come in force,
No,
That is correct.
that all they were restricted to is, was it the regulations?
That is not so.
okay.
That is-
That is
that's
the act.
That's not
Uh,
so.
That is
Gentlemen,
that. You see, anyway.
let
But
us
my
tell
point,
you that
but my
it's
point, Mr. Moderator, I was just trying to get from him, right? Because the question that we are saying is, without a without a Public Procurement Commission, issues such as the specialty hospital It's now been, they are now judge, jury, and executioner.
All right. No.
Right? So therefore, there is no
cannot go into the-
independent
Okay.
arbiter in this area.
Okay, let us not go into specifics of that at the moment. We have to go to a break now, and when we return, we are going to give you the opportunity to outline and to supply details of the argument you are advancing. We go now to a break.